G'day everyone, welcome to this week's Life on the Hulls. I'm up on South Mole Island and yeah, what a surprise this is. Janet and I came here 30 years ago. Look at it, it's derelict. Here's young Zach walking up behind me here. Now this week I've got a lot of little jobs to do. I'm going to fix our windlass intrusion into our cabins. It's a pretty rude one and hopefully it looks pretty good at the end. So there's plenty going on in this video and Zach's been cruising around the island up there up at South Mole. Places like Jurassic Park, isn't it, mate?
So good, it's like living out my dream.
Yeah, it's a derelict resort that Janet and I bought her parents here 30 years ago and it's an absolute shocker. There's dead cane toads in the pool and everything, and yeah, I probably look like a dead cane toad when I was swimming in it 30 years ago. But yeah, here we are, absolutely magnificent. Our boat's out there, we're going for a beer. Let's get into it. With the roof now glassed in, it's not finished, but I've started to fill in this region here. Now that's actually going to look like that, and I'll just put a picture of what it's going to look like. But this area here needs a lot of blocking and a lot of shelving and cabinetry. And what's very important is that I reinforce these modules. These actually have to have foam core stuck to the back of them because they're quite flimsy. And this stern cabin here has quite a lot of backing required. I've already made the top roof here, which is going to form a shelf in the saloon, and then I've got this wall here that I've made, and essentially that's going to form a whole heap of areas here for pantry and the rear end of the refrigerator. But what I'm working on here is inside here. I've actually cut some foam, and as you can see, I'm starting to get a lot of pieces here, and I'm about to glue them together. Where I'm talking about is actually on this section here, so I need to glue a foam backing board onto this module here to beef it up and then reinforce around the doorway. These aren't structural bulkheads, these areas here. The structure's already in the bulkheads behind, and with the deck being interlaced, and particularly this one here is the structural member. So this is only blocking, but I'm going to put it in there to make them nice and solid, to make them feel like they're actually big, thick foam core doors, even though it's actually just a module face. But it's going to save a lot of painting and a lot of fairing in the long run. But yeah, so basically this area here, this here, and all of this here becomes a robe, and essentially this will be reinforced. So I'm going to epoxy this on now, get it in place, and then I need to remove this wall here, because if I don't remove it, it's going to stick forever, and I don't want it there because I've got a lot of work to do in behind there. So first things first, I've made up this piece here. It's going to fit in here, and that's then going to be tabbed to the ceiling, therefore reinforcing it all. And then I have another small piece here that's going to be fitting in here, and then I'll do some filling and fairing, and again tabbing it to the wall so I can cut out these windows and finalise these window shapes. It's not going to take much work, but a little bit of epoxy now is going to give me the solid form of this room's door. And I'll have a foam strip down here and another one down this other side of the door here, and then I'll be able to engage it with that door jamb into it. Before I applied the epoxy, I noticed this little red fine line. It's very important. A lot of the cloth that I use actually has a red line in it, and it's been a bit of a problem for me. I would prefer peel ply to have a blue line or a black line or something in it, but yeah, luckily I noticed it, because I would have glued that on, tabbed that in, and it would have been shit. I would have had to pull that off. So it's a couple of days later. I just left this set. These foam blocks that I have here basically are going to be used as the outsides of the door jambs. So you can see my method here. This is all going to be glassed together so that it's all one piece. But essentially I've got a lot of small pieces here forming the outsides of these doors. Now remembering, these aren't structural, these are just supporting the modules and tying them back in to the deck up here. This will all be tabbed and glassed to the roof. But yeah, that's filled it in. You can see the formation of that robe now. In fact, the whole room is now pretty much formed with my robes and partition spaces. And then there's obviously the other wall that goes in here. All right, so we've got this part now. should fit back in previously. So that's going to go in there. And then we've got a roof. Should fit back in. And that's it. That's our room complete. Let's have a look. So you can see that's pretty much. I've just got to do a small couple of shelves here. I'm not going to fuss too much with this area here because I've got plenty of robe storage here. When you come in here, you've got step up onto the bed, and yeah, plenty of storage and lots of places to hide cables, which is what I'm going to need. Okay, I'm up in the port forward bedroom, and I've got a very unusual little protrusion here, which is actually quite a vicious little square shelf, and what that is actually the back of the windlass shelf, and the windlass is going to be sat in there, but I did need to bring it back slightly to make sure that I got a good fall down into the deepest part of that hatch. The problem is I've got this very sharp corner here, which we don't want in a bedroom. If we had our head back here and sleeping lengthways, you certainly wouldn't want something like that protruding into a bedroom on a rough night. So my plan is to try and round it, and what I have to do is, you can see here, I've actually made a 20mm foam blocking that's going to be glass, and that'll then be glass to the deck. But this spot right here is of particular concern, and essentially I intend to kerf some foam, and I'm going to cut some 10mm foam. I'm going to kerf it and bend it into this place. Now, because it is quite a peculiar shape, this is going to be quite a challenge. So I'm going to instigate some cardboard aided design here and derive the shape with cardboard to look something like that. And essentially all I need to do then theoretically is just transfer this shape onto my kerfed foam, cut it, make sure I cut the right side, and then simply bend it in place, glue it in place, glass it, and then trim off the excess. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do. It is going to be quite difficult to hold it there, because quite a radius like that, a 90-degree radius like that, is going to be quite a difficult task with the foam, because it's already quite rigid. The particular foam I'm using has 2 layers of glass on it on each side, so it's not like it's that flexible, but the kerfing certainly does deal with a 90-degree bend such as that, and that is basically how it's going to look when I do the foam. I've kerfed the foam and I've trimmed it to the shape, so I'm hoping it'll just simply fit. We're going to take a look at the other side, because I've already made that one. Yeah, no, that's going to be fine. That'll work out absolutely spot on. So I just need to work out a way to secure those now, and it'll be in place. So I'm finding a couple of little screws is just enough to hold this in place. So that's going to be the method, and until the epoxy sets, and then I'll come back and tab and glass this in place. It's a little bit of a fiddle, because it is quite. It's got a lot of spring, and the key will be to get some glue on the top and the bottom. Once it's glued in place and get that glass in, I'll be able to then remove the screws. And basically just tie that in, and then I'll put the large straight piece along the back in place later. I'll do the curves today, and then I'll come back and do the straight bit tomorrow, and then I can just glass the whole thing in. You can see what I'm sort of aiming for here is a nice soft rounded approach here, and obviously with my cardboard Muir sitting here, and it's a Muir cheater, so it's a 2500 watt job. It's a pretty serious windlass, and it'll be more than enough for this boat. I'm going to have all of that anchor space with no motor and hopefully very minimal wiring, which is basically only the last part of the windlass under there to deal with. Going here, and then I can start to really tie this in. The windlass will be here in about 2 weeks. I'll be able to sit it in place and make sure that I've got this height right, because I do fear that this needs to go about 1 inch higher. Even the smallest jobs have just been up on the windlass. Even the smallest jobs take the longest time, because I'm going from one outside to inside as you work on your own. It's nice to have someone else actually inside the hatches, but not me. Janet's away for a few days, so I've got to keep going. So I'm now down in the port cabin, and I have to tidy up that mess up in there. So one of the things I learned way back years ago about epoxy and vinyl ester and polyester is always clean up as you go, because if you don't, hours of sanding. And this pretty much is going to be a big mess until it's finished. But if I tidy up now, I can deal with a lot of the excess. We don't want to be sanding too much epoxy, and because it's just a waste otherwise. I'm just going to use stuff where I don't need it. And we've got loads of epoxy oozing out here, so the key is to get a good seal here, because this, although it's all going to be glass, I want to make sure I'm getting the best soundproofing. Although it's going to be very noisy in there, but also total waterproofing, but very good soundproofing. And soundproofing is all about gap filling. It's not so much about the thickness, it's more about filling every single gap in every single compartment. And that's what my mission's been right from the start here. You can see here, there's absolutely not one gap here. There's not even a tiny pinhole for noise to get through, and that's been really critical. Never nothing to do. I just walked up here and thought, oh, I've got nothing to do. I'm waiting for some stuff to go off in the factory. I'm going to give this a trim. This has been annoying me, this sharp edge, and it ends up with a bit of a feature here, as you can see in the picture here. But you can see how there's this radiused edges here, and I've actually just drawn them out. I'm just going to trim them off with the oscillating tool, just to let a little bit more light in, because it's actually blocking the light from this window over here. And not really a big problem, but you know, the more I get sort of cut out to shape, then the more I can actually realize this whole picture. Welcome to the land of the public holiday. We've had 2 in a row. Our last week we had Easter. This week is our Anzac weekend, which is our memorial for our soldiers that went to war in the First World War to Gallipoli and got basically annihilated. And yeah, proud to say my dad was a NASHO as well, a national serviceman, and never went to war, but certainly did his time manufacturing weapons for the Australian Army and for basically for everyone else. But yeah, I'm here today going to make a lot of noise, and I'm going to cut out my windows. Now what I've done is I've made up a little jig, which is a 45mm scribe that I can scribe the outline of my windows. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually using a hole saw here because I want a nice rounded corner here, and it's about a 1 inch or a 25mm hole saw on the corners. I'm drawing it out, drilling the holes, and then I'll grind to that point, and that gives me that really nice fine edge and minimize any chance of any stress cracking of this up into here once the windows are in place. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a job. I've got 6 big windows to do here. I've done this one. I'm going to work my way around the windows and basically get these all cut out today while I can make a lot of noise. So that's going to require a little bit of tidying up with a sander, but they're pretty much the size I need them. I'm not going to make them any smaller because I need a lot of surface area. We've arrived in Airlie Beach and we're off to Proserpine to pick up the kids. They're flying in. Ellen and Zach have already arrived, and Janet and I are on our way to pick up Sam and Von, who are flying in about an hour. Janet's going to do all the shopping, all the provisioning. She's got an epic Excel spreadsheet for this. A bit of a copy of what we did last time, in fact. We're here, Proserpine Airport. It's a bit of a drive, and guess who's here? Alright, oh, here's Sam, Ellen, hello guys, welcome to the effing queue.
The effing queue? What's that?
Far North Queensland. Bonnie, hello Bonnie, how are you doing? Hello Zach.
Hey Roscoe.
How are you mate? Welcome to Life on the Hulls, real time, or the effing queue.
Yep.
FNQ, I'm here. Here we are, this is the team. Janet's doing the shopping, so we've got the easy bit.
Let's go get the
Welcome to Life on the Hulls, real Life on the Hulls. I mean, interesting.
First sailing in 3 years.
First sailing in 3 years, yes, exactly. Here we go, let's go, let's get out of here.
Go.
Loads of different types of products. So, French bread. I've got photos. One of them is
Oh, the raw prawn, Samo.
the other thing.
You don't even eat eggs.
Maybe have a look and see if
Me.
we've got anything.
There's 6 people.
5 people's worth of eggs. Actually, Zach will have 15 a day. Oh, slowed down.
Yes, now I'm on
We slowed you down.
I'm on the fruit and veg now. I can't do this one.
I'm going to send this video to Woolworths to get you a promotion. She's unreal. This lady's just incredible. She's like superwoman. Now for the all-important bit. We've done the groceries. Here's the booze. I didn't realise what heavy drinkers my kids were, but I'll have a couple of beers a day, but the rest is for them. I'm sure they'll have a nice time. I'm the skipper, so I've got to stay relatively sober for most of the trip until we're on a mooring at least, and even then so I've got to stay sober. But yeah, that's a good load of beer. We've got wine, we've got spirits, we've got mixed drinks, we've got seltzers. The kids are into it. Well, here we are again, 2 years on, and we're back, and this year we've got a 1250, which is actually the original 1260, and then they decided to modify it again. It's actually, we believe, the owner of Whitsunday Escape actually owns this boat, so I better look after it, eh? And everyone's in there. I don't want to go in there. I've got a beer because it's been a massive day, provisioning, ferrying people back and forth from the airport, ferrying people back and forth from the boat to get it all loaded up. But yeah, pretty happy with the final result. Is we have got our boat, and tomorrow morning we've got a bit of a demonstration we've got to give them in the morning to make sure we can sail it, anchor it, moor it, which is pretty straightforward stuff, and then we're off for 8 nights. Can't wait. If you want inspo, this is what you need to do. You need to get out and charter one of these, and you've got to go through the riggers and all the briefings and everything. That's just part of it. Don't ever think that that's not part of it. You're better off to do the briefings, because then you're covered and you know where you're allowed to anchor and you know how the systems work. So we've got a guy coming in the morning, 8 o'clock. He'll give us a couple of hours and we'll head out, and then we'll drop him off and we'll nick off. I can't wait.